This is the brand new 2021 Maruti Celerio. But let's go a little back. Back in 2014, when the first generation of the Celerio was launched, it was crystal clear what Maruti was trying to do with it. It was a more modernized, stylized version of the Wagon R, which would appeal to the youth, and it worked for them. But with the second generation car, I'm a bit confused, and there are 3 reasons for that, which we'll get to at the end of the video. Let's start off with what's new with it. So let's start with the exterior. So this car is based on the same hardtech platform as the Ignis and the Wagon R. And also in terms of styling, it falls right in between, where it's not as utilitarian as the Wagon R and not as quirky as the Ignis. Overall, this car from most angles looks well balanced and pleasing to the eye. And also when you compare it to the old Celerio, you'll also find a bit of muscle over here. When it comes to size, the Celerio, as compared to the Wagon R, is slightly longer and wider, but in terms of height, it is slightly lower, because of which it doesn't look visually as big as the Wagon R. Now, let's come to the exterior features, where except for the 15-inch blacked-out alloy wheels, the Celerio lacks a bit of premiumness. For example, up front, you don't get any LED DRLs or fancy LED headlamps. Even the tail lamps are normal bulbs. And then there are the door handles. These pull-type door handles look a bit too old school, don't they? And not only that, even the passive keyless entry button positioning seems like an afterthought. The dash layout on the new Celerio looks simple but modern. Unlike the old car's dash, which was a bit flat, the curves and creases on the new car gives it an air of sophistication which the old car lacked. Quality too is quite good, especially when you compare it to its main rivals. Fit and finish too feels on point because of the consistency of the gaps between the panels. Not only that, even the graining on the dash feels quite premium. In terms of ergonomics, most of the things fall to hand easily, but there are some quirks. For example, the power window switches are placed on the center console and not on the door pad, which will take some getting used to. Not only that, you can only control the front power windows from here. To control the rear power windows, the switches are back here. Even the mirror adjust is hidden behind the steering wheel. The front seats on the Celerio are actually quite comfortable with good lateral support, and even finding an ideal driving position is easy thanks to the seat height adjust and tilt adjustment for the steering column. In terms of visibility, this car is just superb and will make life of a first-time buyer really easy. As compared to the old car, the rear seat of the Celerio is more spacious. You get more than enough knee room, even headroom is more than enough for a 6-foot tall person like me. But also, this rear seat feels a bit basic, I'll tell you why. Now, the rear seat is quite flat, so when the car is being driven around a twisty road, you do move around quite a bit. And then you get fixed headrests, and as you can see, for a 6-foot tall person, they are useless. When it comes to storage spaces, you get decent sized door pockets, a single seat back pocket, but you don't get any cup holders, no rear center armrest. The Celerio gets a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system. On the face of it, it doesn't stand out that much, but actually, thanks to the big icons and the snappy touch response, it is actually quite easy to use. You also get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Other than that, you get a 4-speaker sound system in the Celerio. Now, it isn't as good as the Harman system on the Tiago, but on its own, it's quite decent. Other than the 7-inch touchscreen system, in the top ZXi Plus variant, you get push-button start, electrically adjustable and folding ORVMs, and steering-mounted controls. When it comes to safety, you get 2 airbags, ABS and rear parking sensors as standard. With the Celerio's AMT variants, you also get Hill Start Assist. Although the Celerio comes well loaded with features, there are some misses. For example, you don't get a reversing camera, you don't get an automatic climate control, and even on the top of the line ZXi Plus variant, you don't get ISOFIX child anchorage points. Now let's talk about the boot. Like on the front doors, you also get a passive keyless entry button over here. And the boot itself at 313 liters is quite big. But the problem is the boot lip is quite high, because of which loading big bags and getting them out can be a pain. Not only that, because of the exposed metal over here, you can easily scratch it. To add to the practicality of the Celerio, you also get a 60-40 split folding rear seat. So the Celerio gets a 1-liter petrol engine, which is similar to the old car. But I'm saying similar because it is heavily reworked. Maruti has given it a new block, a new head, and in fact this is a smaller version of the dual jet that you get on the Swift. That also means this engine is high-tech. It gets dual injectors, it gets variable valve timing and a lot more. On paper, 68 PS of power and 89 Newton meters of torque might sound puny, but one should remember that this car is light. As a result, its performance is effortless. In fact, the Celerio is genuinely one of the best first cars that you can buy. There are 3 reasons for that. The first one is the torquey engine. This engine pulls so well from as low as 1000 RPM even in 3rd gear, because of which you don't have to shift much while driving in the city. The second reason are the light controls. The clutch is nice and light, the gearbox is slick enough, and even the steering is easy to twirl. The third reason is visibility, which is great all round, because of which driving even in peak traffic is easy. The only gripe that I have with this car at low speeds is the steering, which doesn't self-center. So, once you turn, you again have to correct it, which can get a bit irritating. What completes the overall city driving package is the comfortable low-speed ride quality. It takes on worst of our road surfaces with ease, and even the biggest of speed breakers don't worry this car one bit. Now let's talk about the AMT gearbox. Now there's a bit of history over here. The Celerio, when launched in 2014, was the first car to get an AMT automatic. In fact, after driving this car today, I've realized how far this gearbox technology has come. It is getting closer and closer to feeling like a normal automatic. In fact, while driving in the city, it feels smooth, the gear shifts are nice and easy, and even when you want to execute a quick overtake, it downshifts quite well. Sure, it still feels a bit slow, especially when you're driving fast, but it isn't as big as a deal breaker as it used to be. The Celerio is quite decent out on the highway as well. The tiny 1-liter engine has surprising amount of grunt, not only for cruising but for overtaking as well. But on the downside, the ride, which is comfortable at low speeds, starts to get a bit bouncy, especially over cement roads, and the fact that the steering doesn't self-center makes it even more irritating at high speeds, as you have to constantly make corrections to go in a straight line. There is also quite a bit of road noise that seeps into the cabin at high speeds, which overall makes this car not such a great highway cruiser. Now the question is, does it feel fun to ride? Well, as far as the engine is concerned, it feels sprightly, but when it comes to handling, it rolls quite a bit into corners and it feels more safe and predictable than fun and exciting. Now coming to the 3 reasons why I'm a bit confused with the product placement of the Celerio. The first one is the engine size. Now, this 1-liter on its own is quite good. In fact, it is better than some other rival 1.2-liter engines. But the Wagon R, which is 50,000 cheaper than this, also get an option of a 1.2-liter engine. Not only it is more powerful, it also has 4 cylinders, which should make it more refined. The second reason is again because of another Maruti product, the Ignis. Now, the Ignis is just 50,000 rupees more as compared to the Celerio. And for that money, you get a bigger 1.2-liter engine and also a lot more features like LED headlamps, LED DRLs, automatic climate control, and a lot more. The third reason is the design. Now, like I said before in the review, it looks quite balanced from most angles. But when we were driving this car and we met some people, they actually ended up asking us, is this the new Alto? And now that I look at it, it actually looks like a bigger version of it. Overall, the Celerio does a lot of things right. For example, it'll turn out to be a great first car because of its easy to drive nature. Other strong points of the Celerio includes the torquey 1-litre petrol engine, which not only feels at home in the city, but also out on the highway. Other than that, the low-speed ride quality is comfortable, and the spacious cabin results in a car that is genuinely a comfortable 4-seater even for tall people. Even the features list is long enough. If I had to change one thing about the Celerio, then that'll be the price. If it was priced slightly lower, then it would have become a genuine and a stylish alternative to the Wagon R. But as things stand, you have to pay a slight premium to get one.